and his government announced that they're considering requiring medical graduates in Quebec to reimburse the government for the cost of their education unless they practice in this province for an undetermined, they said, a certain number of years. And they've considered doing this using the notwithstanding clause. Now, this has caused quite a bit of controversy, concern, people wondering, are we going to lose doctors? Are they not even going to bother studying here in the first place? And is this even legal? Constitutional lawyer and professor Frédéric Bérard joins us now with the latest on this very, very big issue. Good morning, Mr. Bérard. How are you?
Good morning, John. Very good. Yourself?
I'm good. I heard this story, and before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the government has announced, even though it's not super clear at this point, can you explain to us what the notwithstanding clause means in terms of power?
All right. So as you know, we have both charters, two charters in Quebec, the Quebec Charter of Rights and the Canadian Charter of Rights. Both have a notwithstanding clause. And what is a notwithstanding clause? It's pretty easy to understand, I think, is that you have some fundamental rights that are protected by the charters, and the notwithstanding clause allows the Parliament to suspend one of those rights for whatever reason. The Parliament has no justification to give to no one about that, so that's pretty much it.
It's kind of like a veto in a certain sense. Can we say that?
Yes, you can say it's a sort of veto, or you can say also that that the Parliament is not comfortable with this fundamental right for that particular case, so they decide to suspend it without any justification. And I need to add something to what I just said. For the Canadian Charter of Rights, the notwithstanding clause can apply only to Section 2 and to Section 7 to 15.
And what are those sections? What are those sections?
Okay, Section 2 is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and Section 7 is the right to liberty, the right to life, right to security, and then you have other guarantees in terms of criminal matters. So, which means that there are some rights that cannot be suspended by the notwithstanding clause. You have the language rights, you have the democratic rights, and you have also, and this is very important and relevant for our discussion, you have also the liberty of circulation, which means that a parliament, let's say in Quebec, cannot suspend the liberty of circulation, cannot prevent future doctor to leave the province at one point. So what Premier Legault said is just like untrue in terms of constitutional law. Because if you take a look at the Canadian Charter, you're going to see very easily that liberty of circulation is one of the three rights that cannot be suspended by the notwithstanding clause.
So the pushback on that is that the government is saying, because a lot of this is still to be determined, if you will, like if they're asking them to stay in Quebec and work a certain number of years, how many years? The pushback on this is, well, if as a government we've invested, part of your medical fees, medical school fees are covered by the government, and I think a lot of people realize that. I don't think we all took into consideration that the government does fund part of this, these medical studies. The government said, well, listen, you pay it back and you can go wherever you want, or you don't pay it back and you work here a certain number of years. What do you make of that, constitutionally speaking? That's sort of like, give me back my money and then you can go.
That's an interesting argument, and my answer will be the following. Is the fact that asking for future to new doctors to reimburse the money to the government unless we will prevent them from leaving the province, is that an infringement of Section 6? I would say so. I think that
Section 6 is circulation, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. In other words, I mean, in constitutional law, it's a bit technical to explain, but in constitutional law, you have the objective itself, but there's also like, is the policy is too harsh on it? Except of the objective, is it too much of a burden? For instance, if this is the case, we will conclude, the court will probably conclude that there is still a violation of Section 6 because, for instance, we ask for too much money to be reimbursed and blah, blah, blah.
So what do you think, I mean, strategically speaking, you are a political analyst as well. We do have a shortage of doctors here. The healthcare system has all but collapsed. Most people don't even have a family doctor. I wonder, are they just trying to plug up all the holes ahead of an election? I mean, did they think, okay, this is the fix it? This is going to fix it all?
Actually, what they're doing right now is what they do usually, and it's not only Legault, it's other populist politicians like Doug Ford, or you've seen the same thing in New Brunswick right now or in Saskatchewan. You violate the rule of law to make political gain, and we spoke about it many times together, if you remember, and this is one of my sort of obsession, because I don't think that you can live in a real democracy if we don't respect the rule of law. When I hear a premier of Quebec saying things like that, which does not make sense at all in constitutional law, I mean, for me, it's like, it's quite of a problem, frankly, because I don't want to live in a society where my own premier doesn't know its own constitution, right? So either he doesn't know about it, and I think that that's the case, or he knows about it and he's trying to make political gain and creating some kind of a show around it. And in both cases, this is deplorable.
Yeah, it is interesting, and we're running out of time, but it is a kind of sort of blaming the doctors for the system failing, which is not to say that the doctors don't have a role in it, of course, but you can't, all of it works together. Like, it's a symbiosis, and if one piece falls and the other piece, everything becomes weaker. But it's kind of all saying, you guys are leaving, this is your fault, and not kind of looking at the bigger picture there. Before we go, do you think that, where is this headed now? Is this, I mean, obviously, because it's still not clear. He said they have to stay for a certain number of years. He didn't say how many years. What's the next step here, do you think?
You know what? What's happening right now is probably that that Legault and Christian Dubé are just, as I said, creating some kind of some sort of a theater play in a sense. They're trying to see what's going to be the reaction of the public, what's going to be the reaction of the Doctors Association and all that, and then probably decide to move forward. And obviously, if you say to people, if you say to the population, doctor, they make so much money, we need to blame them for this, for that. Obviously, each and every person is inclined to that kind of argument, which is a populist argument, right? As you mentioned, in a way.
Yeah.
So all that to say that I'm quite sure that they will not move forward on this, because they don't just have the right to do so, as I explained. And if they decide to do that, well, I just hope that those doctors or association will go in front of Superior Court and try to strike down the bill.
Frédéric Bérard, again, professor, constitutional lawyer. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
Right back at you.